Well, hello, and welcome to the Masters of Travel podcast series. I'm John Werner, the president of MAST Travel Network. We're a group of over 210 travel agencies spread across the country, and all experts in travel all over the world. And I'm here today at Cary Travel Express in Cary, Illinois, one of our member travel agencies. And I'm really excited about being here today because at Cary Travel Express, they have planned amazing trips all over the world, and their travel advisors are seasoned experts and also well-traveled themselves. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, some of the amazing trips that people at Cary Travel Express have been able to take over the past several months, and in conjunction with Avanti Destinations. That's one of their largest suppliers and a go-to tour operator that they like to use for their customers. So with me today to start out is Dana Prichard.
Hello.
And you just came back from Costa Rica.
Right.
And
yes, a couple months ago.
Okay, that's great. And so why Costa Rica? Why it was your first time?
Yes, it was my first time, and it was really neat going to one country and being immersed into like three completely different areas. We went to, flew into San Jose, went over to the Caribbean side to Tortuguero, which is in the forest. Then we went to the Arenal volcano, which was amazing. The views are incredible from that area. And then we had a little bit of relaxing time over heading to the beach in the Guanacaste area.
So you crisscrossed the country. And Costa Rica is actually a small country as far as square miles go. But like you said, it's so vast in its offerings. And again, the rainforests and the mountains and all the things that you did. What would you say would be the three highlights of the trip?
I would say the three highlights of the trip were definitely the people, very, very friendly people in that area, welcoming arms to all of us. The food was amazing in that area, and also the adventures and activities. They were so different and just not things that you can't do everywhere.
Yeah. So, give us some examples of the kinds of exciting things you did.
Okay, in Tortuguero, we did a turtle museum and saw where the turtles had nested and gone to the ocean. And we stayed in a lodge, which was very remote. You had to get there by boat, and there was no TVs, no phones, no air conditioning.
Wow.
So you really
off the grid.
Really, yep, and kind of take a break from life and everything. Sure. But in the morning, we did a early morning canal tour and saw so many animals and wildlife and birds and the howler monkeys. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
In the Arenal area, we did eco gliding and so a lot of adventure in that area, and there was about 10 different zip lines. And then also in that area, we did a forest hike and did hanging bridges. So there was about 15 different bridges. 6 of them, I believe, were suspension bridges.
Right, okay.
So that was really, really fun.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, it's so exciting. And, well, you mentioned the food, that you enjoyed the food. What were some of your most memorable meals or in restaurants, if there's a particular restaurant you...
The very first night when we met with the Avanti ground transportation and tour that was leading our trip, we had a meal at the Doubletree Carriari in San Jose, and it was featuring 7 courses from different regions of Costa Rica.
Nice. Oh,
and that was amazing. They came out and explained every single course. And it was just a wide variety of food. That was really great. And then the last night for me, the rest of the group continued on one extra night, but I left one day early. We ate at the El Pelicano in Tamarindo.
Okay.
And they served us fresh fish, steak, vegetables, and they even brought in a mariachi band to play tequila for us. So that was the 2 meals that I really enjoyed.
So it sounds like if you were going to recommend a trip to Costa Rica for, that's suited for the best customer that it's suited for, it sounds like adventure, someone seeking adventure travel.
Adventure for sure, and someone that loves all the flora and fauna of the country. The nature lovers for sure.
Right, yeah.
And the animal lovers.
Now, you did end up, you said, at the beach towards the end of the trip. What were the beaches like? I mean, people also go there for beach vacations.
They were very nice. So, they were a wide stretch of beach. The resort that we stayed at was the W Reserve Conchal, and it was very luxurious, had all the amenities that you could want. So more typical of people that are going to a destination for a beach vacation are what the accommodations are like there. Very luxurious.
Oh, that's
and
great.
large.
That's great.
Yeah.
So is there anything you wish you could have done while you were there and you just ran out of time?
No, it was such a wide variety of activities and adventures. I think we hit it all. It was amazing.
Yeah. So what would you say is your best piece of advice for anyone traveling there?
I would say to be open to just take it all in, look at the countryside. Don't sit in one area. There's so much to explore.
Yeah.
Definitely go out and about and
Right.
see all the different areas.
Yeah, that's right. And
Yeah.
as far as like traveling to and from there, it wasn't. I mean, you need a passport, obviously, but I mean, there wasn't really anything else required, right?
No, not at all.
So it was
It was
easy to
easy.
get in
It
and
was
get out
easy.
and-
Yep. We spent a lot of time in a van because when we went into San Jose, that was kind of in the middle of the country. And the next day we went over to, like I said, Tortuguero on the Caribbean side. And that took about 4 hours to get to our destination. We went by van first, and then to get over to the lodge, you had to take it by boat.
Right.
On the river, we had a port, and then we're transported to the lodge. And then when we left from Tortuguero to go to Arenal, that was a long ride. There was landslides. There was a bridge that had collapsed. So it took us about 10 hours to get over to that area, but typically it would be about 8. And then when we were in Arenal to get over to Guanacaste area, that took us about 4 hours as well, but we stopped in Tamarindo and saw, that
Right,
area
yeah.
as well, which is close to Guanacaste.
So there is some distances to travel. The road conditions, though, were, well, other than the landslide and the bridge out, but normally I think it's easy to get around.
Yes. And it was great having a guide with us who knew everything and could find out about the
Right.
bridge being out or the landslide. So
And that, the guide was provided by Avanti Destinations.
Yes.
So, you also mentioned the accommodations. You got to stay at a very remote place, and you also stayed at a very upscale, very luxury place. So
Right.
there's all kinds of accommodations there.
Absolutely.
And the people, you mentioned the people. So I know in Costa Rica, the literacy rate is very high. The people are very well educated there. It's a very good standard of living. So, and you said people were friendly.
Yeah,
And,
they were awesome.
and the service was fantastic, I
Yes,
imagine.
they were great.
That's great. And so is there anything else that you would say if you go there, you have to do this? One thing that you want to leave tell your customers that are going there, make sure you do this one thing.
I would definitely go over to the Arenal volcano
Okay.
area. And the town there, La Fortuna, is so
okay. I've heard of it,
awesome.
yeah.
It has a lot of nightlife, a lot of restaurants, shopping. I just think the views are just incredible. And we stayed at the Hotel Chiaro, and every room had a view of the volcano from our room.
nice.
So I would definitely not miss the Arenal volcano area.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat. That's great advice. Well, Dana, thank you very much
Thank you.
for sharing your experience with us to Costa Rica. And it sounds like just an amazing place.
It was awesome. Yeah, everybody should, if they can, go there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Well, now I'm talking to Neelie Kruse, who's the owner of Cary Travel Express. And of course, I've known Neelie for a long time, and I know that you're well traveled. You've been to a lot of destinations, but I'll bet the destination we're going to talk about, one of your most recent trips, is Manchester, England, the north of England, into Edinburgh. And I think you said it was your first time in that area.
Yep, it was. I had been in Edinburgh just one time on a cruise ship. But other than that, I had not been to any of the areas.
What impressed you most about seeing it for the first time?
Well, first I went at the beginning of December, so everything was decorated for Christmas, which I felt was magical. I mean, it was almost like little Dickens towns, because when we went through the Lake District, you went through all these little towns, and it was just absolutely breathtaking. As pretty as it was now, I can't even imagine how gorgeous it would be in the summer or fall.
Yeah, that's I'm sure it was beautiful. And but Manchester probably surprised you a lot, because I know it has an older reputation of being an industrial town, but it really has transformed over the past decade or so. And what did you like most about Manchester?
Well, everything you said is absolutely correct. I mean, it was never on my radar. I never sent anybody there as many Scotland trips as I saw. I was pleasantly surprised. One of the things we did there was we went to see Manchester City, because they've got the two soccer teams, Manchester United and Manchester City. I've never even seen a soccer game in my life. So I was like, okay. Well, I was blown away. I mean, first of all, the tour was fantastic, the tour guides, but also what Manchester City has done for exactly what you're saying, revitalizing the city itself and putting the money in and the time is just night and day. I mean, the restaurants, the shops, the hotels, I mean, were fabulous. So I really, really highly recommend it. I mean, we did a gin tasting tour. It was called Spirit of Manchester Distillery Tour. And it was like flights of gin. Again, I don't like gin at all, but they were great. And then we had dinner. It's called the Three Little Words, which is attached to it. And I would strongly suggest suggesting that to your clients, along with the Manchester City tour.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you went with Avanti Destinations, and so they helped set up all the different components of the trip and the guides. And
Yeah, they set up everything. And one thing that I really liked, they had us take public transportation within the city of Manchester versus a tour bus like you would normally do with a group, to see how easy that was for your clients. And it was so easy. You went right out to Manchester City and got off the transit right there. It was easy. So I liked really getting in with the locals and seeing how easy it is to get around there.
To get around. And what was your favorite activity there? Well, the gin tasting, but what else was really stuck with you that you were impressed?
Well, the Manchester City. We also did see a library. Now, I can't think of the name of it. I'll have to look it up. But it was a real old library that was mind-boggling. I mean, it was. They say it's haunted, and that the spirits guide you to the books, and that was fantastic too. And then we did a food walking tour. Love that, because there's so many. I mean, they've turned a lot of these old industrial buildings into restaurants and apartments and things. And so we did the food walking tour up and down the city streets. It was fantastic.
So then after you left Manchester, you went into the Lake Windermere, I believe, and I don't know if there's other lakes in the area too, but you toured very small villages then.
Yep. Yes, we definitely did. And we went to Windermere. We stayed at the Muirwood Country House Hotel that was magical. I mean, it's just like what you expect to see in the Lake District. We went to, some cute little restaurants. We also went to a family owns this called the Muncaster Castle and Gardens, and they own this, and they're actually going to try to put some rooms in it, some high-end rooms. But right now they have the hawk and owl shows that they do, as well as their gardens. And we had lunch in there. We felt like we were queen for the day. That was great. And then we went onto Loch Lomond, which everyone's heard of Loch Lomond. It's fabulous. It's beautiful, that whole area. We stayed at the Cameron House Hotel, which was 5-star. It even had a water park, which I was shocked about. So if you want to take families there, it had, I think, 5 restaurants, beautiful bar. The hotel was just totally redone. It was gorgeous and right on Lake Lomond. So you can do, or Loch Lomond, you can do boat tours from out there. I mean, there's cute little restaurants around. The golf course is fantastic. So it was beautiful.
And were you able, even though it was wintertime, were you able to take a cruise on Lake Windermere?
Yes, we
Okay.
did take a cruise on Lake Windermere. It was we had 40 degrees and sun every day, which who would guess the beginning of December. It was beautiful. We were on the upper deck, and so you saw the mansions and some of the castles in the distance. And we took it one way. You can take it round trip. We did it one way, and it was beautiful. I mean, the scenery was spectacular.
Yeah. Well, I hope, that castle, a lot of your clients, when they go to places that have castles, they want to stay there. They want to see there and dine there. And so that's going to be popular.
Oh, yeah. The son has come into the mix now. So it's still in the family, and
Yeah.
he's got a lot of great ideas for expanding it, and it'll be a huge hit.
So after you left Lake Windermere, where did you go next?
We went to Edinburgh.
Okay.
So I mean, I've been to Edinburgh before, but again, it was just magical at Christmas. Everything lit up with the Christmas decorations. The Glen Eagles townhouse we saw there. It's also in conjunction with the Glen Eagles golf course, so you can golf out there. It's like an hour away. The property was absolutely spectacular. Again, an old building that they renovated. It's relatively new. We also had dinner at it was called the Tow Booth Tavern, and it's on the Royal Mile, and it's 200 years old. I would definitely have your clients eat there. I mean, it was as authentic as you get. You get right on the Royal Mile.
Yeah.
And we did the castle. We did a food tour. There's so much to do in Edinburgh.
Right.
Also, Outlander fans, which I am. Within an hour radius, there's numerous of the filming sites that you can do Outlander, and we did stop at a couple of them on the way. But I didn't realize how close they were, because I know if you go, up north into the Highlands, they do a lot of the filming up there for Culloden and that. But even around Edinburgh, there was a lot. But
And
people do day trips.
That's definitely popular. People like to see the movie sets and where things have been filmed. So,
Except the Scottish people really know nothing about it.
oh, really?
They don't. They were never really told about They said 95% of the people, except the tour guides, have never even seen it. I thought that was kind of amazing.
Yeah. Well, eventually they probably will. But so, what type of customer do you think a trip like this is best suited for?
I mean, really anybody, actually. I mean, you've got, like I said, this one place had the family water park. I mean, there's so many, younger people with hiking, so many places that you can hike and do water sports and, kayaking, so many things like that, as well as, an older clientele that's going for, because they've seen Scotland before, but they want to see the Lake District and do it. It's just easy to do by a train. Private car and driver now they have more of, which they didn't as much in Scotland as they used to, or driving yourself, even though that's not that much fun on these windy roads. But it's more accessible, I feel, for us. So the older people that want to get back into that area, definitely younger people for sure. So really anybody. It's great. There's something for everybody.
What is the one, a piece of advice that you would give a customer and to say, don't miss this. If you go there, be sure to do this.
I mean, Manchester. I mean, again, somewhere I would have never said that before. I would definitely put Manchester on the list now, as well as this whole Lake District area. I mean, it's just something that people don't normally go to.
Right.
They go to Glasgow, they go to Edinburgh. They don't hit that, but put the Lake District on your list because it's absolutely gorgeous. And again, I saw it in December. Can't even imagine what it looks like with the flowers and sunshine. Well, we saw sunshine, but it's just the towns are just like what you see. You wind through these little places, and there's a castle here, a castle there, and the next cute little town, which is cuter than the town you saw before.
Right.
So, put it on the list.
Well, one last question. Name 3 of your favorite parts of the trip, the highlights.
3 of my favorite
3
parts of the trip. Well, the castle, Muncaster Castle. Touring it, and then they gave us a private lunch, which was out of this world. Sitting there, and it was the family's, china from hundreds, 1,000 years old. I don't know, very old, and that was just cool, just eating that.
Special, yeah.
Definitely the Manchester City tour. That was, again, I've never even seen a soccer game, so if it's coming from me, you have to go do it. And then in Edinburgh, you have to go to the Edinburgh Castle and just, it's such an easy we walked 23,000 steps that day in Edinburgh and didn't even feel like it. I mean, you have hills and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's an easy place to get around, and I find Edinburgh just magical.
Yeah. It's a beautiful city. The Edwardian and Georgian architecture there, and just the whole atmosphere. So that's always a highlight for everybody. Thank you so much, Neelie. It was great to learn about your trip to England and Scotland and share your experience with us.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Well, I'm here with Jan Callahan, also with Cary Travel Express, and Jan went to France, specifically the Normandy area of France, and I don't know if it was that your first time in that part of France?
Actually, I flew into Paris, so that was my second time. Paris is my all-time favorite city, so I'm glad the tour started in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And but to Normandy, that was my first time,
First time in
and
Normandy.
it was a wow.
Yeah, I'll bet. And what would you say were, I know you went to a lot of the famous places of Normandy, like Monet's home and garden, and I guess the Normandy beaches and so forth. What would you say were the three main highlights of your visit, your time in Normandy?
Okay, I would say the top three would be the Normandy region, actually. The small towns going out to Normandy, which I recommend, which would be Rouen.
Oh, right.
And
the cathedral there.
The cathedral, but there's so much more in Rouen. There's we saw where Joan of Arc was burned at the stake in 1431. There was an art museum that the tourist board took us to. So a lot of surprises in Rouen that I would highly recommend along your journey to the beaches of Normandy. Another highlight, I watched Saving Private Ryan, so I wanted to see the cemetery, the Normandy American Cemetery. That was important on the trip. And boy, it was raining that day, John, and I was just hoping that we could walk through that cemetery without the rain. And sure enough, the sun came out when we got to the cemetery, and we were able to walk through it. And it's, you can see the beach down below, and you feel the emotion of that cemetery. And knowing that over 9,300 soldiers were killed within 24 hours. It's just incredible emotions.
There. Yeah, amazing experience.
Yeah. Another thing that really surprised me is the town of Bayeux.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's so much in Bayeux. Besides the cathedral, every town has their church, but it's not too far from the beaches. And this is where you would have your client stay in Bayeux.
Okay.
But the town of Bayeux, the restaurants that we experienced, we went to 2 chateaus in Bayeux. And actually, when I got back from France, one of the agents here was planning an Avanti Normandy trip, and she asked me, which chateau should I put these clients at? And I was able to, give her that information. But I would say those 3 highlights. There's also in Bayeux a tapestry, dated back from 1056 that the monks stitched. And it's a must-do tour for your clients in Bayeux.
And that's housed like in a museum or something?
It is. It's in a museum, and the tourist board took us there, and it was, again, a wow that you would never know was there in Bayeux.
Right.
So there's so much to see in the little towns in the Normandy region.
And how were the accommodations, from town to town that you...
The one that sticks out for me personally was Rouen, and that's because I was given a really, really nice room. It had a terrace that overlooked the whole little town. Some of the agents didn't get that room, but it's like if you send your clients to the Radisson Blu in Rouen, ask for that terrace because it's just really beautiful.
And Avanti Destinations can probably book that.
They do.
Room, that particular room type, or
yes, every hotel we were in, they book it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can request it ahead of time. So the trip itself, well, you also mentioned about food and some of the chateaus. I guess that's where you had dinner at or lunch. What meal stood out the most to you? What was just so memorable?
I think our restaurant in the little town of Deauville.
Okay.
That's a quaint little town also. La Flambe, I think. They had a lot of variety of French food, and I wanted to go outside my box. And so I tried a couple different things. You know, some of the agents were eating boar.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've never had boar.
Yeah.
They were talking about tongue, and I was like, I will not eat tongue. No, I never will.
I would do boar, but not tongue, probably.
I know. So, but that restaurant in that little town just stands out.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat. And so this type of trip, what type of customer is this type of trip best suited for?
Definitely anybody interested in World War II history, because it is full of World War II history.
Yeah.
We were able to go to the Kahn Memorial Museum.
Okay.
That covers D-Day, June 6, 1944. So anyone interested in that, and in fact, they are gearing up for 2024, which is the 80th anniversary of D-Day.
Right.
And
right.
they're building a new museum right on Gold Beach. That's in Normandy. But anyone interested in history for sure.
Was there anything on the trip that really surprised you? You didn't expect?
The town of Rouen.
Yeah.
I just was amazed at how, in fact, one of the Avanti agents there had lived there temporarily,
Yeah.
and I can understand why.
Sure.
And one of the tourist boards had moved to Rouen, and I could see why. It was just so charming.
Yeah, that's neat to hear because I don't know personally much about that town. And I've heard of it, but that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so is there anything that you didn't get to do that you really wish you had the time for?
Of course. I wanted more time in Paris.
Yes.
For shopping. But we began our trip there in Paris, and it ended in Paris. And so more time in Paris would have, I would definitely, for a client, do 2 days and then 2 days in the end.
Right.
Instead of one night.
Yeah.
But
it sounds like, you do need more time there. And you traveled from place to place by coach then. It was any segments by rail or anything?
Oh, yeah. We did planes, trains, automobiles, definitely. We had a rail from Cannes back to Paris.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And that was...
Avanti, it was great to go on this because it's flawless.
Yeah.
They just, they handle everything, the tours, the private transfers.
Yeah.
And the hotels and restaurants were wonderful. So
everything that they set up, it was
it was flawless.
Yeah, that's neat. So one last question: if would be the biggest piece of advice that you would give a customer you're planning a trip for them there?
I would have them do the same itinerary as I did because it was fabulous and fantastic. But instead of 4 nights or instead of 6 nights, because that's what I had, I would do a little bit more time.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much in each little town that you don't want to miss it and you don't want to be rushed.
Yeah.
And so I would extend it to like a 10-day at least.
Yeah. Well, you shared your itinerary with me, and it just looks fabulous. All these places I've always heard about, but I haven't visited myself, except for Paris. But you did, you had a jam-packed itinerary. It looks like, and walking tours and so forth. So, but that's really neat. And
we even did a hotel inspection at 10:30 at night.
Oh yeah.
And everybody was like, "That's the first," but it's like. Avanti wanted to make sure they got that hotel inspection at the restaurant hotel that we were at. So.
Right. Yeah. Would you recommend that restaurant and the hotel itself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's neat. Well, thank you, Jan. I really appreciate your sharing your experience with us.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're looking forward to your next trip.
I really am. Voila.
Well, next I have Cheryl Krueger with me. And Cheryl went recently to Croatia. Was that your first time to Croatia?
It was my first time, yes. It was very unexpectedly wonderful.
So-
I didn't know what to expect, and it was just amazing.
So that was everything was a surprise to you. I mean, what was the thing that surprised you the most about Croatia?
Well, I guess I just didn't really have many clients asking me to go there, so I didn't know much about it. So
Right.
when I got there, it was just so much history and information. I didn't realize how tropical it was going to have a feeling like, with there's palm trees, beaches.
Yeah, right.
Just wasn't, that familiar with the
What
country.
month were you there?
And I was there in October. It was like in the mid 70s.
Okay.
So very pleasant weather.
Right. Yeah, that's a great temperature area.
Right.
In Croatia, what all it's a small country, but yet it's as far as square miles, but it's also a large country in the fact that there's so many places to go and so many areas. Where were you able to go on the trip?
Well, our trip started in Dubrovnik, which is in the south end of Croatia, right on the Adriatic Sea. From there, we went to Split, which is a little bit north of there, also on the Adriatic Sea. And then from there, we went to Plitvice Lakes, which is more on the interior. It's a national park, which, it was just absolutely breathtaking. And then finally to the capital city of Zagreb for our departure.
Oh, did you spend some time in Zagreb?
Just overnight.
Just
we
overnight.
barely
Yes.
we got there late afternoon and left the next morning.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't see Zagreb on too many itineraries to Croatia. I know a lot of people certainly want
It's a very cosmopolitan city.
Yeah.
Very,
I'll bet.
it's got some luxury shopping, lots of little busy little squares with restaurants and things. Yeah.
In Dubrovnik, were you able to stay right in the historic center of the city?
We stayed about 10-minute walk outside
Okay.
of the city in a hotel called the Grand Villa Argentina, which was like built on a cliff.
Oh.
And so we had these breathtaking, beautiful views of like some of the little islands that were just off the coast. And the pool was kind of built right into the cliff.
Oh,
So there was lots of stairways
Yeah.
and, to walk around and explore beautiful gardens.
Oh, neat. Neat.
And they had elevators, so you could, definitely, it was, handicap accessible.
And you were still close to the historic
And just within a
center,
10-minute walk, and a very nice little walkway, sidewalk right along the
Okay.
seashore, right into the gates of the old city.
Oh, wow, nice. And what were the highlights of Dubrovnik for you?
Well, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and so there's just many. Inside the city, it was very, very busy. There was lots of restaurants, shops, and museums and churches, lots of things to do within the city.
Right.
So, there's a lot of things to explore that way. They have a cable car just right outside the doors of the gates there's two main entrances. On the one of the gates, there's a cable car that takes you up to the top of I guess a hill or mountain.
Okay.
And then from up there you have beautiful views of looking down at the walled city. You can really get an overview of
Right.
what that looks like and all the the sea and the islands around it. And there's a little restaurant up at the top of the hill that you can have lunch and spend some time up there.
What was the
very
most
nice.
memorable restaurant that you went to in Dubrovnik?
We went to this one that was just right outside the city center. It was called, I wrote it down, Dubrovka 1836 Restaurant and Cafe. And it was right along the edge of the sea, and it had just beautiful views of the walled city and also one of the fortresses of Bakar, B-A-K-A-R, Bakar. So you can kind of see all of that. It was just a gorgeous view.
Yeah.
And an outdoor cafe. They had mainly like seafood, but they
Sure.
also had even like the pizza looked really good. But we had seafood, I think, our group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have that there
I
if you're on
know.
the sea,
It's
right?
a main,
Yeah.
a main food
Sure.
for
Sure.
for Croatia.
And the city's beautiful at night, isn't it?
And it's all lit up. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all lit up. There's a couple two different bell towers, one on each end, and that's all lit up. And cafes and there's some really, I guess, good nightclubs if you really.
Sure.
So there's really plenty to offer for any kind of a traveler.
And how many nights would you recommend somebody stay there?
Oh, at least 3 nights.
Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's plenty to do.
So then you went to Split. How did you get there? Was it by coach or train? Or?
We did a private transfer.
Okay.
We were told that the train transportation system in Croatia is not very reliable, not really the best. So for our clients, we would want to either recommend a private transfer, which is what we took, or there's even during the season you can take a ferry from Dubrovnik, because they have a great marina there, and then there's also a marina in Split, so you can take the ferry right over to Split as well. I think they said the ferry's about 3 hours, and our private transfer was maybe about 3 hours as well.
Oh, okay, so about the same amount of time.
About the same amount of time, so maybe the ferry might offer a little nicer atmosphere, to kind of more fun way to do it.
And that's a resort area, right? There's beaches and other parks.
There's beaches,
national parks, I guess.
Well, maybe a national park, but there was definitely beaches both in Dubrovnik and in Split.
Okay.
Split was a much larger, more busier city, but it's also a walled city, another UNESCO World Heritage Site. So it's also walled, but it had more of like a promenade out in front of the walled city, where there was shops and cafes and nightclubs, and so palm trees along the promenade. It was a much different, more cosmopolitan feeling, I guess, than Dubrovnik.
Okay.
But still lots of little narrow walkways and many, historical things inside the city as well.
And so after you left there, you went to Plitvice? Is that?
It's I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Plitvice?
Plitvice or something like that. Plitvice or something.
Which is a national park.
Right, and
it was
lakes.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
They have over 100 waterfalls. They've got 16 lakes. They have an electric boat that'll take you from the upper level lakes to the lower level.
Right, it's like they're tiered.
Because they're
lakes.
tiered.
Yeah.
And they have all these walkways and hikes and trails. We did a 3-hour guided tour, so we got to see, they take you right to the base of some of these, really tall waterfalls, and it was just one better picture after the next as you walk along the path. It was amazing.
Do people go swimming in all those lakes too?
No, I didn't. Well, maybe the big lakes, some of them. I didn't see anyone swimming though. But maybe it was the time of year. I'm not sure.
Be, yeah.
But inside the national park, I think there's 2 different accommodations that lodges that, well, there may be more, but we stayed at a real nice, it was kind of, more rustic, but it was still very nice.
Yeah.
And it had a full board kind of a setup, so because there's nowhere to go to get a restaurant, so when you stay there, you get your kind of buffet meals included.
Now, did you pass through any of the wine regions? Because Croatia has great wines.
Yeah, we might have, but we didn't really stop at any wine regions. But we did stop at an oyster farm near Stone, which is another cute little town. There's salt mines there. And if you stop in Stone, there's a little town you can walk through, and you can buy the salt that's mined from the salt mines right there. And that's also got a walled area. They kind of built that wall to protect the salt mines from invaders. But right near there was this oyster farm. So we took a boat ride to an oyster farm on this little island, and we learned all about how they farm the oysters, and we had a really nice, fun lunch there.
Featuring oysters.
Featuring oysters, but we had some other things too.
Right.
But it was a lot of fun. We had a good time.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So this type of a trip, what type of customer is best suited that you would recommend this kind of a trip to?
Yeah. Well, I would recommend it, well, just anybody who, maybe people who have traveled to a few of the countries in Europe and they're looking for something different and new, because this is all, it's not as visited as some of the other countries, but it should be, because it offers so much. There's so much history involved with each town has so many historical things about it, so many different UNESCO World Heritage Sites, even that national park, the lakes, is a World Heritage Site. But Game of Thrones, anybody who's interested in Game of Thrones, Dubrovnik was one of the main places where they filmed a lot of the Game of Thrones. So they have a lot of different points of interest right there to kind of.
On the tours they probably point out.
Yes,
the
they did.
sites.
I didn't see Game of Thrones, but the people who I was with, there was several of them who were just thrilled about. They recognized many different sites.
Did they? Oh, that's neat.
In that town, and also same with Split. They also were doing some filming there as well, because that's also had some really old parts of the city as well. So I mean, honeymoon couples. It was very romantic. Walking around the city, just kind of shopping, going to the shops, the cafes. You can take boats and ferries to the little islands and explore some of the islands off the coast of Dubrovnik and Split. So so I think it's good for everyone, really.
So what would be a few that you would consider the best piece of advice to someone going to Croatia? Some of your best recommendations.
Well, I would just say to make sure that you try to hit at least some of the highlights. Don't just stay in one city, because each city is unique and offers different things. So it's good to try to plan an itinerary where you're going to have multiple stops. You can use private transfers or a ferry. We were even told that it's really easy to rent a car in Split and drive to the Plitvice Lakes and even Zagreb if you want to go see the capital, because the roads are all brand new paved. We did the roads, and they tunnel through a lot of the mountains, so it's not a lot of up and down. It was real easy traveling. So you can kind of you can feel comfortable driving. The roads are pretty well marked, and they are marked in English as well. So,
all right, so they do make it easy.
Right, they do.
That's wonderful. And was there one last question, I guess? What is the one thing that you did not get to do that you wish you would have done?
I really would have liked to have gone to on the ferries to one of the islands and did some exploring. We didn't have time to do that, but I would have, because Croatia on many itineraries, cruise itineraries, is a stop, like it's a port stop. People stop there, but it's just so much more than that. And there's so much, I would have liked to have gone to see some of those little islands that were just off the coast, because they talked about how much, fun that would have been, hiking and exploring, finding hidden beaches and things. So.
I think that's probably a surprise to a lot of people going there, that they didn't realize there was that much.
There is. There's so much. There's hundreds of little islands off the coast to see.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for sharing your Croatia experience with us, and I'm sure you'll be sending a lot of customers there.
I hope so. They really should go. It's a wonderful country to visit.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you.
Well, I'm now with Gale Timmer. And Gale traveled to Italy. Of course, Italy is a big country with lots of regions and areas. Where did you go?
We went to San Remo in Italy, in the north western side of it, and then up to Turin in the Piedmont area. And flew out of Milan. It's a great area.
I'll bet.
Really kind of, not the average area where people would go, but so much to offer.
Yeah.
A lot of medieval history, went through a lot of medieval towns, which were fascinating.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah, because you're right. It's not a place, everybody, they want to go to Venice and Florence and Rome and Tuscany and down to Positano or whatever. But that area is a surprise for a lot of people. I mean, what surprised you most? I mean, you talked about the medieval history there, but what stood out?
Well, on the medieval history, every town's a little bit different, which I thought was cool. When we went to Ez, it's on a giant hilltop where you climb up, and each area had a different level with storefronts and places that the people would have lived. I was fascinated by the beauty of it because it's like the Italian Riviera.
Yeah.
They call it the Flower
Sure.
Riviera. We were right on the sea. The hotel that we stayed at was amazing.
Was
It
that in San
gorgeous
Remo?
view. It was right
Okay.
in San Remo, the Royal
Okay.
San Remo. It's a 150-year-old hotel. Fabulous views. So much wine, and different regions have different tastes. Some of them were more, the water's better, they say, but they were milder
Right.
than up in the Piedmont area. They were different. I think the beauty of just the
Sure.
Italian Riviera was
Right.
something. We got to visit Nice, France, because
Okay.
it's just an hour
Right.
away. So one of the tours was up there, which was interesting that you
bet.
could see so many different things
Yeah.
like that.
Did you go to Portofino? Because
We didn't go to Portofino.
Really, because
no.
it's right there too.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many areas.
this
and
can't
they
do
have-
it all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have so much to
Right.
show us in
Sure.
6 nights time or
Okay.
a week. So
Yeah.
we can't do everything.
Right.
But we went to Perfume Factory
Okay,
in Ez.
that's a great place, activity in that area. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw the area where Monet painted the picture with the bridge, and they took you and you could see the castle in the background. They
Okay.
show you the exact spot. They have a frame
Right.
of it that you could
Yeah.
put your camera up to. Kind of fun. And then went and saw. One thing that was fascinating. We went and saw the oldest Egyptian museum.
Oh,
It
okay.
had 55,000 artifacts.
Really?
And I think it was third in the world, like as far as biggest. Egypt, obviously, Cairo is
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah.
But it was fascinating.
Oh, I didn't know
the
that was
first time.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah, that's great. And and then you went to Turin.
We did go to
So,
Turin.
and Turin is an industrial city, but
An industrial city with a lot to offer.
Yeah.
They have the Royal Palace there. They took us at night. It
Okay.
was all lit up. We're the only ones that got to enter it. And the statues and the rooms and the tapestries and the rugs were
Yeah.
beautiful.
that's a big area for tapestries. Yeah.
Yeah, they had a lot of the knights.
Okay. Yeah.
Armory, I guess
Right.
is how you'd call that.
Yeah.
So we got to see all that, which was fascinating. They also, when we were in that area, went over to a farmstead,
Okay.
which was a goat farm that
Okay.
would make cheese, goat cheese.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. I mean, it made you want to live in the country.
Sure. And what about the wines? That's
Yeah.
Comanti wines. That's a wonderful wine region.
Very good.
Yeah.
Marone was my favorite,
Okay.
Marone Winery.
Yeah.
And they had served us a lunch up on top of the hill.
Oh.
And they have this beautiful room with, lots of wood
Sure.
and open windows that looked out at the winery. That was
Yeah.
just gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, that was special, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, was that your most memorable meal, or what? Was there anything that topped that?
There was some other good ones, but I think that was my most memorable because of the view.
Yeah.
The view was gorgeous there. Yeah. We also ate at the hotel in San Remo. That was beautiful, and some small little spots where they had the local, Italian food. And all. I was shocked. The food's a little bit different there.
Really?
You think
How-
of Italy
how
as
so?
all pasta,
Yeah.
and it wasn't so much.
Okay.
I mean, some pasta, but a lot of sardines
Okay.
and anchovies.
Oh,
type.
okay.
So a lot of
People's favorite.
some of that stuff
Right.
more than just like the ooey gooey pasta that
Right,
you think
right.
of with Italy.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat. And in Turin, did you go to the Shroud of Turin? I know that's famous there.
because it's only. I mean, we got to see where the shroud is held.
Okay.
But they only put it out on certain occasions, and it's once every 10
okay.
years. I think
Oh,
it
really?
was.
Oh, I
It's not that often that it's
Okay.
out. But they took us to the room, and you could look down. It's always lit. They
Okay.
always have lights on it.
Right.
So even though we were there at night, you could look down and see where it's kept.
Okay.
But not viewed.
Okay. All right. So, and then how were the accommodations all along the way?
They were good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned the one hotel. You said it was nice, but
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was a huge room at the Royal San Remo with an amazing concrete style patio that looked out to the sea.
Right.
So I mean, that was just awesome.
Yeah.
They had lounge chairs. You could sit out there. You could really see it from anywhere in the room too, which was beautiful. In Turin, it was a high-rise hotel. Like
Okay.
it was completely different because
Right.
one was very luxurious.
Sure.
The other one was nice, but it really was more like a standard big city hotel.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you go? Did you say that you went north of Turin, up in towards the Alps region, south of this?
We
Foothills
got
or
to
something?
see them, but we didn't spend much time.
Oh, you didn't
in
go
the
up there.
Alps.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
kind of like mostly when
Yeah.
we drove back to Milan, we
Right.
got to see that area.
Yeah.
You know them. When we did go up to the Piedmont area, you could see them, but it was hazy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. So what would you say was the biggest surprise for you that you didn't expect?
so much medieval history.
Okay.
Yeah, that would probably be the biggest.
Great. So this type of trip would be suited best for what type of customer?
Well, I think anybody would enjoy it, but probably somebody who's looking for either not a lot of maybe the typical crowds of, you know, when you go to Italy to Rome, there's
Right.
tons of people there.
Sure.
Or somebody who's already done all these spots and
Right.
needs a different location,
Yeah.
something unique.
Right. Yeah, something a little bit different. And I know some travelers really like doing intensive regional things. You know, they don't want to do all just the main itineraries. But so, would you say, you know, what would be your best piece of advice for a customer going there? What should they do, or what should they avoid?
I don't think we did anything that I would avoid. What should they do? Just walking around the towns too is something great to explore. But Nice was fun to go visit.
I'll bet. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go over to the big gambling area.
Yeah.
What the heck? I can't even think of what it's called right now.
Yeah, in Monte Carlo.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's
Did
it,
you
yeah.
pass through?
We
Monte
passed
Carlo?
through
Okay.
there. We didn't get to go.
Yeah.
We just had
You
so
just
much
passed
to do,
through,
right?
okay, yeah.
But it's something unique
Right,
to do.
right, yeah.
There was a casino in San Remo
Okay.
if you wanted to explore that. But just going into some of the shops is really interesting too. Turin has its styles are similar. They said the shops are similar to Milan.
Okay.
And there was a lot of high fashion there,
Yeah.
which surprised me.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because I know Milan is known for that.
Yeah.
And then you said you flew out of there, but
We
you didn't
did.
stay in Milan at all.
No, we didn't have any time.
Right.
It was just a quick trip over
Yeah.
to the airport, and then we flew out.
Sure,
of
sure.
Milan.
So it's if you had to say name the 3 highlights of the trip, what would those be?
Being able to stay at the Royal San Remo Hotel. I loved the farmstead tour
Okay.
with the goats.
Yeah.
They took us around and showed us how they lived too through their home. And the next best highlight, I liked Nice. I did enjoy Nice, France, even
Sure.
though that wasn't the focus of this trip.
Yeah. And did you stay overnight in Nice then?
No, we
Or
just went for the day and wandered
back?
around.
Yeah.
But it's completely different in the aspect that it was so many people there.
Yeah.
And then you were in the crowds. And
Right.
then when you went back to where you were staying, there wasn't the crowds.
It wasn't crowded.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing for people who don't want to be all around the crowds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe if I added a fourth, I would say as the town
Oh,
of Ez.
okay.
That was fabulous.
Yeah, I like the fact that you said it's like tiered,
Yes.
different levels of the town. That's always neat.
Yeah.
And well, that's great, Gale. I thank you so much for visiting with us and talking about your Italy experience.
Well, thank you.
Thank
This
you.
was fun.